So I realized that my previous video might have spoken about a lot of things that might have been confusing for newcomers to C Sharp or maybe just coding in general. So I'm going to go full on beginner tutorial for this now. I'm going to start off explaining strings, integers, and variables since these are pretty basic in coding. So let's start with variables. And the reason I want to start with variables is because they're basically any data you store temporarily in C Sharp will probably be a variable. A variable means it's something that varies and can be changed at any moment, just like my last relationship. A Boolean variable is binary, meaning it's either going to be true or false, and we can use that true or false status to do a lot of things. For instance, we can tell a loop to stop if the Boolean is false, just as an example. So let's practice using some Booleans. So here we'll have a carefree and beautiful girl in her late teens who sparks an interest in you, and we'll call that Boolean Jessica. Now, for the sake of not upsetting any real people, we're going to be using a fake name here, not that you deserve it. Now let's say that our Jessica here finds you and she makes you really happy and you make her happy and you've got a good relationship. It's going to be presented like this. Oops. Jessica equals true. We've assigned the Jessica variable to true because our relationship is true. You're making promises to each other and you're telling her how much you love her and she loves you back, and you're dreaming and fantasizing about your future together, married with kids and all that teen romance bull. And then suddenly 6 months later she just drops you for one of her bandmates. The relationship is no longer true. You've entered the false stage. So after 6 months have passed, you reckon you've fully healed and maybe you've had some other relationship flings, but no one really made you happy like she did. And she suddenly pops up out of the blue and she invites you out to have drinks with your friends because she's been talking to them without telling you and they haven't told you either, and that's not weird. And that's when you discover that she's been sleeping with your best friend from high school. And you see the way that she looks at him and you hear her hiccups again and you hear her talking about her little siblings that you used to spend every day with and the way that they interact, and you remember everything good about the relationship, and you thought you had healed and you were indestructible, but your heart manages to find an entirely new way to break again, and it feels worse than the first time because not only are you seeing the person you loved with someone else, you're also losing one of your best friends because there's no way you can ever talk to him again, and you just want to push it all out of your head and forget about it entirely. Except you can't do that, because Booleans have to either be true or false. Just like you can't forget about the two most important people in your life, and you'll never forget what they did to you. That Jessica variable in your heart is going to be false forever, and you can't do anything to change it. Actually, you can just assign it to true like this, but that's not quite as poetic. Also, I misspelled this. So we're not going to do that. Okay. So let's do strings next. So let's make a string that contains the text, "This sentence is false." Alright, so this is us playing with some pretty dangerous territory here, am I right? So let's see what happens when we write this to the console. Except no, you stupid. This is just ASCII characters. It's not a cartoon. You see what I did there? I called it by its variable name and it printed the string. Do you see how amazing that is? I made Minecraft and Notch took all the credit. Now, just like Booleans, we can change the value of our string variable. We can write paradox equals this sentence is stupid. Look, we haven't even got to mess around with this like string because it's, you know, it's not, we're not declaring a new one. We're changing the value of this string. I mean, the same applies to these booleans here as well, but you know, I was just too busy telling you about my ex-girlfriend. If for whatever reason you do want to crash your computer with a dumb string, you can put it in a loop like this. Don't include that. as long as you don't make Jessica true at any point earlier in the code, it will run infinitely until your computer runs out of memory. That's really useful, huh? Now make sure you use 2 equal signs here. Otherwise, you're assigning Jessica to false. And that's not what we want to do with the while segment. 1 equals will change something, and 2 equals will check something. All right? This is something a lot of people seem to get stuck on while they're learning. It's one of the more common typos that tends to break codes. Integers! God, I love integers. No, not really, they're just numbers. But we've got to talk about them. So we declare integer variables like this. Integer numero uno is equal to 1. And it's as easy as that. You're giving something a name and you're assigning a number to it. Imagine you're going to McDonald's and you order a large Big Mac meal with a beer, because you can do that in Spain. And instead of calling out Menú de Mac Grande con cerveza, they would say 46. The same applies here. And I am assuming you can all speak Spanish. So here's another way of breaking your computer with code. If we create a new integer called Steve, and we give it this specific number, 2147483647. This integer is the highest 32-bit number we can make. We cannot go any higher than this. So what happens if we increment it?